I want to bring in Adam Schiff, congressman from California. He also was a member of the Intelligence Committee and just recently appointed by Democrats to sit on the Select Committee for Benghazi. Thanks for being here. Let me start here with this appearance. There is a full circle feel to the president's speech today.
There really was. As you pointed out, he talked very evocatively about the events of 9/11 that got us into Afghanistan. He talked about bringing the combat mission to an end. But I think he also laid out in part the case for some continued presence there, the necessity to maintain the counterterrorism operation. And part of having an intelligence presence there means having the security of the troops to protect that intelligence presence. I think that's going to drive a lot of what we do in the future. But I think he's also there in part not only to thank the troops, but to celebrate that first round of an election. As you said, the first democratic transfer authority in that country's history. We're seeing some pivotal events going on in Afghanistan right now.
The only president I've ever known is Hamid Karzai. He's leaving in what is largely a peaceful transition. He did say, we want to preserve these gains, which certainly sounds like code for we will have this residual force here. But so much depends on these Afghan forces. Are they ready to defend what the U.S. has spent so much blood and treasure, as we say, to hand over to them? You're on the Intelligence Committee. Are you confident that Afghan troops and Afghan police are ready right now to take over? And in most cases they have, I know that.
Well, you know, I think it's two different questions when you ask about the Afghan police and you ask about the Afghan troops. I was just in Afghanistan myself about 2 weeks ago, meeting with General Dunford, and the Afghan troops themselves, I think, are very battle ready. They are dedicated fighters. I've been told on prior trips to Afghanistan, the problem with Afghans is not having to push them into the fight, but having to hold them back. The bigger challenge militarily is going to be logistics. And this isn't the most talked about part of a war plan or war strategy, but just logistics of keeping the forces maintained with equipment, material, making sure that they have the bullets in the right place. Those seem common sense to us, but battles are won and lost on logistics. And that may be part of what we really need to do to help them once we draw down our troops. The Afghan police, though, there's a major problem with corruption, and I don't see that being fixed anytime soon. And that may be the biggest challenge that the next government faces, and that is, can they do something to deal with the corruption problem? Because nothing yet has really moved forward on that front.
As you know, that no deal was made with Iraq when we left, and so everybody came out. No residual force there to assist or train. Do you see the lack of any kind of agreement with the new president, whoever it turns out to be, would be disastrous for the progress that Afghanistan has made?
Well, I think that if there's no new agreement and if we go to what's called the zero option overnight, then it's very possible that the government just collapses and you have an Iraq-like situation, or even worse, you might have a Syria-like situation a year down the road. But even if we stay in a limited size, that's no guarantee of success. And if you look at Iraq, you know, a lot of the blame is being placed on the fact that we didn't get this security agreement that allowed us to have a presence. But even in the absence of an ongoing presence in Iraq, Iraq's current trajectory wasn't inevitable. It was the result of a lot of mistakes made by Maliki in basically sidelining the Sunni population and giving growth space to al-Qaeda to reassert itself. So even in the best of circumstances, even if we stay, there's no guarantee of success in Afghanistan. The new government is going to have to deal with the corruption problem. They're going to have to give the Afghan people confidence in the government itself, and we can't do that for them.
But no question in your mind that this is it. You know, the U.S. is getting out. We don't get a forces agreement. It's the end of the U.S.
If we don't get an agreement that will protect our troops,
right,
then we're out.
Legal agreement is what we're looking for.
Then we're out. But I think under any circumstance, our combat troops are out by the end of the year.
Congressman, before we go, I do want to talk to you about this hellacious shooting and stabbing, actually, in California. It is not your district, but it's California. And, you know, looking at it, we're already seeing one of the fathers came out and just would break your heart, saying this is about the NRA and sleazy politicians. He didn't use that word, but it was very tough on politicians. Is there any way to avoid these kind of conversations that, you know, we always talk about guns, we always talk about mental health. Nothing ever seems to happen after these things.
Well, it's just horrendous what's taken place, and your heart goes out to everyone affected, including the family of this mentally ill person. And we see time and time again you have this overlap of mental health problems and too easy access to guns. And I was asking myself just today, in hearing these stories about this beautiful town where my wife went to school, what does it take? What does it take to actually get the Congress, the government, the country moving? How many more tragedies? You would think after something as serious as Newtown, we wouldn't need anything more to get motivated. We are, I think, taking baby steps to deal with the mental health issues, but obviously we've made very little progress, and it shows in these tragedies.
And it is, after each one, baby steps just aren't enough, are they?
No, they're not. And you have the impression of the fabric of the country being torn a bit each time there's a tragedy like this. And we have a responsibility to try to mend that fabric in our country, and that means much more comprehensive mental health, and it means reduced access to firearms by people who are very sick.
Congressman Adam Schiff, thank you for coming by and watching us with both these big stories today. What you